Hello and welcome and namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Afghanistan takes inspiration from India to corner Pakistan. The Taliban government's minister, Mullah Abdul Latif Mansoor, hints at plans to build dams across the Kunar River, which is known as the Chitral across the border. US President Donald Trump terminates all trade talks with Canada after what he termed was a fraudulent ad showing late President Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs. Putin remains defiant despite Trump's move to sanction Moscow's oil, dismissing it as a pressure tactic. The Russian president also warns that response to strikes deep inside his country will be very serious, if not overwhelming. And an NBA player and coach are among over 30 arrests as part of a sweeping FBI investigation into illegal sports betting and alleged rigged, mafia-linked poker games. Afghanistan is taking assertive steps to assert its water sovereignty, a move that could have severe consequences for Pakistan's already fragile water and energy security. Following weeks of deadly clashes along the Durand Line, Kabul has announced plans to construct dams on the Kunar River, signaling a strategic effort to control water flowing into Pakistan. According to Afghanistan Deputy Minister of Information, Afghan Supreme Leader Akhundzada has instructed the ministry to begin construction of dams on the Kunar River as soon as possible and to sign contracts with domestic companies. The 480-kilometer-long Kunar River, known as the Chitral in Pakistan, feeds into the Kabul River, which ultimately joins the Indus near Attock. Islamabad, which has long relied on Afghan rivers for irrigation and hydropower, now faces a looming water crisis of its own. Any reduction in the Kunar's flow would impact both Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Punjab provinces, further straining Pakistan's irrigation and agricultural output. US President Donald Trump has said on Thursday that all trade talks with Canada were terminated following what he called a fraudulent advertisement in which former and late President Ronald Reagan spoke negatively about tariffs. Trump wrote on Truth Social, and I quote, "Based on their egregious behavior, all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated," end quote. The ad showed Reagan, a Republican, criticizing tariffs on foreign goods while saying they caused job losses and trade wars. The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation issued a statement late on Thursday saying the ad by the government of Ontario was using selective audio and video of Reagan and that the foundation was reviewing its legal options. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney told reporters on Thursday that Canada will not allow unfair US access to its markets if talks on various trade deals with Washington fail. The US imposed tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum and autos earlier this year, prompting Ottawa to respond in kind. And Trump as well as Chinese President Xi Jinping will be making state visits next week to South Korea when the country hosts Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation or APEC events. South Korea's presidential security advisor said that South Korean President Lee Jae-myung plans to hold summit meetings with Trump and Xi separately. As part of a trip to Asia, Trump will meet Xi next week with South Korea, and the White House said earlier, amid an escalation in trade tensions between the world's two largest economies. Before the APEC meetings, Lee will make a two-day trip to Malaysia between the 26th and 27th of October to attend a summit of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, that's ASEAN, also joined by Trump. On the sidelines of the ASEAN summit, Lee will talk to Cambodia's Prime Minister Hun Manet and discuss recent online scam issues. Russian President Vladimir Putin has warned on Thursday that Moscow's response to any strikes deep inside Russia would be very serious and overwhelming. Addressing reports that Washington had eased restrictions on Ukraine's use of long-range Western missiles and President Zelensky's comments about developing domestic weapons with a 3,000-kilometer range, Vladimir Putin said that such moves were an attempt to escalate warning that attacks on Russian territory would invite a powerful retaliation.
This is an attempt to escalate, but if these weapons are used to strike on Russia, the response will be very serious. I should even say overwhelming. Let them think about it.
Despite the tensions, Putin emphasized that Moscow has always supported dialogue with Washington and still does. He said Trump's decision to cancel the summit appeared to be a postponement rather than a complete cancellation, adding dialogue is always better than confrontation. He was, of course, referring to the proposed summit in Budapest, which was later cancelled by the American side.
The US president has decided to cancel or postpone this meeting. More likely, he is talking about postponing it. What can we say? Dialogue is always better than any confrontation.
The Trump administration and Republican lawmakers in the Congress have cautioned on Thursday that flight disruptions are likely to worsen as the government shutdown stretches into its 23rd day, leaving air traffic controllers without their first full paycheck. Around 13,000 air traffic controllers and 50,000 Transportation Security Administration or TSA officers are being forced to work without pay during the shutdown. Controllers are set to miss their first complete paycheck on Tuesday. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt warned of major flight delays, disruptions and cancellations at airports nationwide during the holiday season, blaming Democrats for the ongoing impasse. Democrats, however, dismissed the accusation, insisting that it's President Donald Trump and Republican leaders who are responsible for the stalemate by refusing to engage in negotiations.
If the Democrats continue to keep the government closed, we fear there will be significant flight delays, disruptions, and cancellations in major airports across the country this holiday season. If Democrats continue to shut down the government, they will also be shutting down American air travel.
Now, tension flared in Alameda, California on Thursday as protesters clashed with the police over the arrival of federal agents at local Coast Guard base. Donald Trump reversed course on sending federal agents to San Francisco. The president's announcement on Thursday surprised many as he declared that no federal agents would be deployed to San Francisco despite earlier plans. The move comes amid ongoing debates over immigration enforcement in Democratic-led cities. The European Commission, or rather the European Union, has accused social media giants Meta and TikTok of violating the bloc's digital content rules, a move that could expose the companies to significant fines. In its preliminary findings, the European Commission has said both platforms failed to give researchers proper access to public data, breaching the EU's Digital Services Act. It also said Facebook and Instagram lack user-friendly tools to report illegal content and do not provide effective ways for users to appeal moderation decisions. The companies now face potential penalties if found in breach of the law. France's socialists have threatened to topple the government by Monday if their budget conditions are not met. Socialist Party leader Olivier Faure said on Friday they would file a no-confidence bill next week if the mega-rich are not forced to pay more tax. Given the arithmetic of France's starkly divided parliament, the socialists have the power to topple Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu's weak minority government if they partner with the far left and the far right, which have already said they want to oust him. Japan's new Prime Minister Takashi Sanae pledged on Friday to accelerate a defense spending target by 2 years as the government pursues proactive fiscal expansion on strategic priorities. In her first policy speech, Takashi told Parliament that Japan aims to reach a defense spending goal of 2% of gross domestic product or GDP in the current fiscal year through March, ahead of the original target of fiscal 2027.
Our nation must take the initiative in radically strengthening its defense capabilities. To this end, we will act to bring forward the implementation of the 2% of GDP level within the current financial year set out in the National Security Strategy in conjunction with supplementary budgetary measures.
Takaichi has previously said that Japan is completely looked down upon by China and that Tokyo must address the security threat posed by Beijing, while calling for more security cooperation with Taiwan.
China is an important neighbor of Japan, and we must build a constructive and stable relationship. At the same time, it is a fact that security and economic security concerns exist between Japan and China. We will advance our strategic, mutually beneficial relationship through frank and repeated dialogue between our leaders.
After torrential rain in Taiping, Malaysia, residents found themselves trapped in flooded homes on Thursday. With roads inundated and vehicles partially submerged, many used rafts to move around. Local authorities launched their disaster response on Thursday evening as conditions worsened across several districts in northern Parik state. Over 2,000 residents have been evacuated to temporary shelters as of Friday morning, as Malaysia's meteorological department forecasts continued rainfall through Friday. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. India's space body says 90% work on its first manned mission Gaganyaan to space has been completed. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addresses Rozgar Mela, says appointments made today are active contributions to nation building.
Indian industries are facing pressure because of President Trump's tariff threats.
Even tariffs are part of the story, actually. If you were to look at the whole story of the deindustrialization of India, it began in many ways under the British rule. They say, oh, it's not our fault. India fell behind because you missed the bus for the Industrial Revolution. My answer is we missed the bus is because you threw us under its wheels.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, India's Space Research Organization, or ISRO chairperson V. Narayanan on Thursday has said that 90% of the work on India's maiden human spaceflight mission Gaganyaan has been completed. The first of the 3 uncrewed missions is scheduled to be undertaken in December. ISRO completed the first integrated airdrop test for Gaganyaan at the Satish Dhawan Space Center at Sriharikota on the 24th of August. This test successfully demonstrated the critical parachute-based deceleration system of the crew module of the Gaganyaan mission. In a simulated rehearsal of the splashdown that will take place when astronauts return to Earth after the mission, a module was lifted using a helicopter to an altitude of 3 kilometers and released before deploying 9 parachutes for a successful splashdown into the Bay of Bengal. And for more on this announcement, let's go across live to DD India's Shubhendu Ghosh. Now, hi Shubhendu, does this really mean that India's manned space mission is on course for its 2027 launch?
Look, Gautam, yes, it does look like the first major step is going to be being taken forward successfully. 90% work is done for the first uncrewed mission of Gaganyaan. It's one of the most ambitious space missions that India has planned. It's going to be India's first manned mission. Well, the manned mission will take place a couple of years later in 2027, and what we're witnessing now are the preparations towards that mega mission. This is going to be an uncrewed mission. December sometime is when ISRO thinks it's going to be ready. 90% work is done. The technicalities, as you mentioned, are all in place. There are going to be multiple uncrewed missions next year, 2026 as well, and those will determine if the preparations are complete to safely take human beings to the space. 3 Indian astronauts or Gaganyatris will be taken into the space as part of the Gaganyaan mission. about a height of 400 kilometers from Earth into the space. They're going to spend about 3 days orbiting the Earth, and after that they have to be brought back to Earth. Now, there are a lot of complexities and variables involved in this mission, and therefore the importance of this robot, Vyomitra, who's going to be part of this uncrewed mission. In the shape of a woman, it's a robot, AI-enabled robot that with sensors, which is going to be tracking all the details, all the sort of data which are important to make sure that the human space flight, when it takes place, is absolutely safe.
And Shubhendu, how critical is the Gaganyaan mission to India's overall space emissions?
Oh, it's hugely significant, Gautam. Space is often referred to as the final frontier, and it's no different with India. India also has planned a space station, an indigenous space station, by the year 2035. Come 2040, India plans to have a crewed mission to the moon. Now, Gaganyaan mission is going to establish India's expertise in taking humans to space and bringing them back safely. So in that sense, it's a most important stepping stone for any kind of human space exploration in the future. And given the manner in which India has always shared its expertise, particularly in the space domain, with the whole of Global South, if India is able to achieve this feat, it is going to be a remarkable milestone for the Global South in taking forward its ambitions and aspirations into the space.
That's certainly, Shubhendu. Well, I'm sure we all wish ISRO all the success it needs, all the good luck that it needs to complete this mission. Thanks a lot for joining us to talk about it for the time being. Now, President Draupadi Murmu has attended the centenary celebrations of St. Teresa's College in Ernakulam, Kerala. She lauded the college's century-long contribution to women's education and nation building. Highlighting the rise in gender budget allocation and women-led MSMEs, the President emphasized that women's active participation is vital to leverage India's demographic dividend. The President noted that the government's vision of achieving 70% women workforce participation by 2047.
Active participation of women is necessary for the country to leverage its demographic dividend. Gender budget allocation has increased 4.5 times during the last decade. Women-led MSMEs nearly doubled between 2011 and 2024. One of the key pillars for achieving the vision of Viksit Bharat by 2047 is to achieve 70% women workforce participation.
At the invitation of the Government of Seychelles, Vice President of India C.P. Radhakrishnan will be visiting the Republic of Seychelles on the 26th and 27th of this month. The Vice President will attend the swearing-in ceremony of Dr. Patrick Hermini, President-elect of the Republic of Seychelles, on behalf of the Government of India. During the visit, the Vice President will convey India's warm felicitations to Dr. Hermini and reaffirm the close long-standing ties between the two nations. Seychelles is an important partner under India's Vision Mahasagar and in India's commitment to the Global South. The visit underscored India's deep commitment to further strengthen and expand its partnership with Seychelles. And the day saw Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressing the Rozgar Mela through a video link today. The PM emphasized that youth empowerment remains a top priority for his government. The Prime Minister noted that Rozgar Melas have become a powerful medium to fulfill the aspirations of young Indians, with over 11 lakh appointments being issued in recent times.
पिछले 11 वर्षों से देश विकसित भारत के निर्माण का संकल्प लेकर आगे बढ़ रहा है। इसमें सबसे बड़ी भूमिका हमारे युवाओं की है, आप सबकी है। इसलिए युवाओं का सशक्तिकरण ये भाजपा एनडीए सरकार की प्राथमिकता है। आज रोजगार मेले युवाओं के सपनों को पूरा करने का माध्यम बन गए हैं। अकेले इन रोजगार मेलों के जरिए बीते कुछ समय में ही 11 लाख से ज्यादा नियुक्ति पत्र दिए जा चुके हैं और ये प्रयास केवल सरकारी नौकरियों तक ही सीमित नहीं है। हमने देश में पीएम विकसित भारत रोजगार योजना भी शुरू की है। इसके तहत 3.5 करोड़ युवाओं को नौकरी देने का लक्ष्य रखा गया है।
Now let's take a look at some other news making news today. In a landmark move, the Delhi government has allowed women to work night shifts in shops and commercial establishments. The order, now officially notified, makes it mandatory for employers to provide safe transport, CCTV coverage and proper security. Women's consent for night duty is essential, and an internal complaints committee must be formed in every workplace to ensure their safety and dignity. In two simultaneous rescue operations, Drishti Marine lifesavers saved 42 people after a cruise boat and a dinghy got stranded off Aguada Bay in North Goa amid rough seas and thunderstorms. The rescue teams used rigid inflatable boats and jet skis to reach the vessels trapped along the rocks. Despite turbulent waves, all passengers were brought to safety with help from the Aguada jail and port staff. In Jharkhand's Hazaribagh district, police have busted an opium smuggling network and arrested 6 people during an anti-drug drive ahead of the Bihar Assembly elections. Around 2.7 kgs of illegal drugs, 4 mobile phones and vehicles were seized from the spot. The arrests point to an active interstate drug trafficking network involving links across Jharkhand, Bihar and Punjab. On the 23rd of October, International Snow Leopard Day has been observed, and the global #23for23 campaign was actively supported by Project Brahmang of the Border Roads Organization to promote snow leopard protection. BRO personnel engaged in community outreach with forest officials and villagers, encouraging coexistence and habitat preservation. Now let's get you some business updates as well. German automakers have been going through hard times for a while now, but still the latest news has come in as a shock to all businesses. Volkswagen will have to shut down some of its production as soon as next week. Lars Holter is with Deutsche Welle and joining me from Berlin. Well, hi Lars, what's behind the problems that Volkswagen is facing?
Thanks for having me. Well, that's right. Volkswagen said they might have to shut down production of their popular Golf model, and it's because the company is running out of chips. We're talking about chips made by the Dutch-Chinese company Nexperia, and there's quite a backstory to that now. Nexperia is a subsidiary of China's Wingtech technology, headquartered in Shanghai, but with some of their chips developed and manufactured in the Dutch city of Nijmegen. Now, last week, the Dutch government took over control of the Dutch plant, and citing national security and European economic security as a reason. Government insiders said it was meant to prevent Nexperia from leaking chip-related intellectual property to China, but China retaliated right away, with Nexperia immediately halting export of all its Chinese-made chips.
All right, so it's not something market-related, but definitely market rivalry could be one of the reasons. Thanks for joining us for the moment, Lars Holter. Now on to sports, and the FBI has carried out investigations into schemes involving illegal sports betting and rigged poker games, leading to the arrest of 34 people. NBA Hall of Fame player Chauncey Billups and a guard with the Miami Heat, Terry Rozier, were among the people charged in connection with 2 separate but related federal gambling investigations. The schemes, one of them focused on insider sports betting, and another that rigged poker games nationwide, spanned years and involved tens of millions of dollars in illicit gains from wire fraud, money laundering, extortion and gambling. That scheme also involved the Bonanno, Gambino, Lucchesi and Gianduizzi organized crime families in New York. While the arrest stemmed from 2 separate indictments, a handful of defendants were charged in both the cases. A historic sporting milestone unfolded in Ladakh on Friday with the inauguration of the North Zone All India Inter-University Kabaddi Women's Championship 2025 at the ice hockey rink Byamathang, Kargil. The event is being hosted by the University of Ladakh, Kargil campus under the banner of the Association of India Universities and supported by the District Administration, Kargil. Teams from 48 universities of the North Zone will take part in the historic event. The championship was inaugurated by Lieutenant Governor of UT of Ladakh and Chancellor University of Ladakh, Kavindra Gupta. In his address, the LG said that hosting such a prestigious national-level championship in Kargil marks a new beginning in the sports history of Ladakh. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India Live, but we leave you with the story from Moscow, where a new wave of tea culture is brewing as some Russians turn away from coffee, long seen as a Western import, and are embracing the country's traditional drink. Tea houses are making a comeback in Moscow as part of an effort to revive Russia's historic tea culture, once central to city life before the Soviet era. While Russians have long been among the world's biggest tea drinkers, most consume it at home. Now, changing attitudes and tensions with the West are driving a renewed interest in tea as a symbol of national identity.
Дорогим предметом, и он купил его, и уже оплатил. Вот, консалтинг ГБД. Понятно.